Someone with a drug addiction has two main options when it comes to rehab, and they're both completely opposite extremes. They could choose the path of normality. I want to live a completely normal life. I want to keep up with my everyday routine, have my family and friends around to support me, and I'm going to go to a rehab in my local community. But the other extreme, the other option, is to put their life on hold, go and live in the middle of nowhere at a residential camp where they can cut themselves off from their friends, from their family, from everything and everyone that they know, and have time to solely focus on that big issue in their life. And the research shows a radical difference in results depending on which of those two options the recovering addict chose to take on. There was a survey done 5 years later where they interviewed each of the addicts who'd now since recovered and seen whether the rehab had worked for them. Had they managed to stay clean in that 5-year period? For those who went to a rehab in their local community, 35% of them had managed to stay clean for that 5-year period. However, for those who instead chose to go to a residential rehab, to stay in that bubble where they were cut off completely from the society and the world that they knew, well, 47% of them had actually managed to stay clean for that 5-year period. And they found that in certain residential rehabs, they actually had results of up to 60 to 80% of people leaving those rehabs and staying clean for 5 years. So what was the main reason for the much higher success rate of those who chose to go and stay in a residential camp? Quite simply, they were surrounded by like-minded people. In this one area, in this one issue in their life that they needed to tackle, that they needed to beat, they could not have been surrounded by better people, because the people they were surrounded by were also facing that one issue, also had that determination to dedicate their lives for that period in rehab to fixing themselves, to overcoming the issue that they'd been facing. All of these people could understand each other, they could lean on each other to an extent that just could never quite be achieved, even with one's closest family and friends in their community. This week's parasha introduces the concept of Arei Mikla, a bizarre community of accidental killers, all of whom have found themselves on the run, trying to escape the families of the people they accidentally killed. What is the purpose of trying to create such a niche community, of bringing together a group of people that have this random thing in common with each other? The Sefer ha-Chinuch explains that each of these manslaughterers, by being cut off, by only being surrounded by other people who were facing the same situation, it allowed them to realize and repent from the deed that they'd committed. Because at the end of the day, yes, they'd killed by accident, but I'm sure they felt that there were mistakes that they could have done better in the build-up, that there were things they may have been careless with. And somehow being surrounded by each other, hearing about each other's scenarios, would maybe help them support each other to achieving that spiritual growth and to going down that path of teshuvah. So too in our lives, we're all going to face a variety of issues. And of course, the first and most important stage is going to be prioritizing ourselves, making sure that we've recovered from whatever that problem may have been. But once we've overcome that issue, once we've sorted ourselves out, could we actually turn this around and use it for the good? Use this situation that we went through to our advantage? Because we have a special opportunity. We are going to be now some of the only people who can empathize with others when they go through that issue. We are some of the only people out there that they can turn to and know that they're talking to someone who really understands what they're going through. So we need to be on the lookout. We need to realize that our weaknesses, our issues that we may face in our lives, will actually be the areas that we are best equipped to help others going through those same things. Shabbat Shalom.